right, guys, I think it's time to get ready for our first match of the day between SilentStorm versus KXN. Let's talk a little bit about these two gentlemen. SilentStorm is a guy that I saw qualify for the Prismatic Cup 2 a couple months ago, back when I was still doing a lot of the online cups.
Yeah.
And he came through with one of the most dominant records because they played Swiss, and he challenged Colento. It was actually a really cool matchup to see a guy go 6-0 in the Swiss, or was it 5-0 in the Swiss round stages,
Yeah.
and get that far. And it's cool to see him back in another open qualification spot to start putting his name out there as one of the better unknown players.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see players like that consistently perform. Don't get invites. They just consistently perform through open brackets and make a name for themselves just by being great consistently throughout all these online tournaments. So definitely looking for great things from him. And also KXN, his opponent. Don't know too much about him, but we know he's a guy faring from Germany. So it's pretty evident that a lot of different types of players from all over the place can play in these online tournaments. All you have to have is an America's account and maybe not have too many cards, but he had enough to be able to qualify for this. So
yeah, sure. Or you just throw more money at Blizzard's way and try to get as many cards as you possibly can, or you just do a lot of infinite arena runs. It's one or the other at this stage. So our first match will be between these two guys in the upper bracket. Keep in mind that there is a lower bracket for today, and that we're going to be doing about 5-6 matches. Depends on how the things flow here.
Yep.
So let's take a look at how things will progress for this series. We have KXN on the left, hailing from Germany. He has Warlock, Priest, and Hunter. And then SilentStorm is not playing Warlock. He's not playing Hunter. In fact, he's playing 3 different classes. He's got Shaman versus Warlock, which could backfire. It could work out for him. Depends on how it is.
Yeah.
Priest versus Mage, which is already an interesting lineup. And then Hunter versus Warrior. What an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, these are all pretty even matchups. We don't really see too many huge counters going on here. We'll have to see what SilentStorm actually is bringing with these decks. There's a couple different Mage decks out there right now. The one that we saw at DreamHack that I believe Strife Crow was the one who created that deck.
Yes, that deck's amazing.
It was really incredible, and using a lot of value minions and duplicates and stuff like that. So really, really crazy stuff. So we'll have to see which one SilentStorm is actually bringing. Doubt people would bring Freeze Mage to a tournament like this with Hunter so popular.
I mean, it's
possible.
It might be, because you only can play Hunter once.
That's
right?
true.
It's not like you have to play against the inevitable Hunter if it beats the other 2 decks in the first lineup. All you have to do is bring 2 out of 3. You have a 2 out of 3 chance to not line up against Hunter, and it might be good. But Priest is still a tricky matchup if it's Freeze Mage.
Yeah.
We'll worry about that once we get to that bridge. For now, it's Shaman versus Warlock. What kind of Shaman, what kind of Warlock? We've been seeing both these classes have innovations recently. And, of course, we'll continue to see it once GVG comes out on Monday. But until then, it's just going to be a really good time. I think Game Number 1's about to begin, so let's get ready to see who's going to take Game 1 between SilentStorm versus KXN.
Yeah, it's we'll have to see which one he's playing, either the Handlock or the Zoolock. I've played a lot of this matchup. Shaman's probably been my most played class over the past month, maybe 2 months. So
nice.
I've played against a lot of Warlocks, especially, and Warlock is one of the most besides Hunter that I've seen on the ladder lately. And I feel like I'm pretty confident in my matchup against Zoo. If you can get some of that early removal
you think
and control
so?
the board. Yeah, I think so. You can run out of steam pretty quickly, but if you're able to control the board a lot early on with those cheap spells, then it can be pretty good. So it looks like it is going to be Zoo.
Well, he's got Lightning Storm, and he's got the coin, which I think has been really important, because one of the most awkward things in Shaman is having a turn 1 removal spell, and then they play a single threat, and then you're going to be off curve and off mana for the next couple turns as well. So I like having the coin to smooth things out. I like going second to respond to the threat, and I like having an extra card because the extra card will be valuable since Shaman tends to burn through a lot of its resources early on, just because there's so many cheap spells.
Yeah, and sort of the thing, running out of steam against Zoo is definitely can be an issue sometimes. And getting clogged with a lot of overload spells as well. You have to be really be conservative at times with your removal, just because if you play removal against a board that isn't that threatening, and you just run out of removal spells, or you run out of that oomph that you need to get past it, it can really come back to haunt you.
All right, so turn 1 Earthshock in response to it. He didn't have Lightning Bolt anymore, and for good reason. He wants to value his curve a little bit better, and he does have a next turn play with the Harvest Golem. And by the way, guys, this is with the new Spectator mode, so that's why it might look a little funky with like where's the mouse? How is he ending his turn without the mouse button? So that's a cool new feature Blizzard has implemented.
Yeah, really cool functionality with this, and just bear with us if you notice anything that looks a little bit funky, but that's just Spectator mode. That's nothing really that can be helped, but I really like that Blizzard's doing more to support the competitive scene.
Oh, just the fact that a lot of people love watching Hearthstone. It doesn't even have to necessarily be that competitive scene.
You can watch your friends too.
Exactly. There's like, dude, I'm actually having the craziest game. You need to see this. And instead of just screenshotting, you're able to share it. Now, immediately he goes for the Silence on the Harvest Golem. A great thing to do, just because Shaman's board is so valuable for them to be able to build momentum. And KXN's going to try to get this Abusive Sergeant in, but absorbing a damage is probably one of the better things he could have done in this situation.
Yeah, and this is the point where the Shaman needs to make that decision. And this seems... Do you wait here? Do you just Lightning Storm?
Well, it kills 3 cards, which is almost as good as you can ask for it to do, considering it's 5 mana.
Yeah.
It's on curve, and next turn you still have a play with Zombie Chow. You're always scared if you just have the hero power, because it's such a weak turn. It's essentially passing, but I think Zombie Chow's all right. Plus, on turn 5 you can Loatheb, turn 6 you can
Fire Elemental.
So you're planning out your turns. Everything seems really good from that point on.
Yeah.
Oh, and a life tap. You have to be really happy to see that as the Shaman player, because he can't seize back the board immediately, and Zombie Chow will be the big bully on board.
Yeah, and his curve is a little bit awkward as well. He's going to be on 5 mana next turn. He could play the Harvest Golem and the Egg, but it doesn't have too much of that immediate board impact that you're going to look for into.
Well, there are usually around 8 mana, 1 mana cost cards, and I was forgetting Soulfire has now been added to that, so
wow.
10.
Yeah, that's
so
not a bug. If you guys haven't been keeping up with the patch, that is a 1 mana Soulfire.
How do you position this? I guess the Nerubian Egg is going to get buffed by the Argus no matter what, so you're going to slide that in the middle.
And still rounding off his curve pretty well here. He's going to be able to play the Loatheb. And the Loatheb's pretty good in this situation too, because he's going to be able to protect his board from that Soulfire. And we can see that he already has it in his hand. And with Loatheb, Soulfire now 6 mana, so that's a pretty big investment to go for that. But he does have that Defender of Argus in his hand to sort of activate that egg and make his board a little bit tough. It's always really hard to get through the egg as well as a Defender of Argus, either Harvest Golem or Haunted Creeper. It's just really annoying to deal with.
Do you cash in on the egg immediately? Or do you simply kill the Zombie Chow here and then push with damage on the egg? It's interesting.
Yeah, I think that forcing him to make that trade is probably a little bit better. Because usually when you pop that egg, you want to be able to deal with the Nerubian on the same turn.
Sure.
But a lot of the times that's not really possible, especially as Shaman. That number is usually 3 damage from Rockbiter, Fire Elemental, Lightning Bolt, unless you can roll a Spell Power Totem, which doesn't fit his curve at all and would put him a little bit behind, especially since you're just rolling 1 and 4, which can be pretty tough.
Also, I was a little surprised to see KXN go for a life tap. When you have Soulfire in hand, usually any card that discards another card, you usually don't want to be accumulating more cards, because Soulfire becomes the most efficient if it's just a 1 mana dump, right? And because normally the way you can see Soulfire is that you count the mana it costs to draw a card, and that's how much damage it does per mana. So in this case, Soulfire does 4 damage for 3 mana, but when you don't have to discard, it's actually just 1 mana. So it's a little interesting that he wanted to go for more cards. He felt like his options weren't good. But the good thing about it is that his curve has filled out pretty nicely. But this is where Soulfire, like being 1 mana, actually is starting to have a little impact here.
Yeah, because he's not going to be able to clear his hand. That's still going to not be quite as efficient, like you were saying. Still going to cost that extra mana to discard that card.
All right. You know, and he's still really resilient on protecting this egg.
Yeah.
He's willing to pop his Haunted Creeper, which again, you know, you usually want to keep your board as resilient to Lightning Storm as possible, but your opponent already showed one, so I guess he's less likely to have it.
I've seen actually quite a few Shaman decks only run one Lightning Storm, because against a lot of decks it can be a dead card in your hand, and having to use double Lightning Storm to clear a board sometimes is huge, because that's so much overload. That's 4 overload that you're putting yourself in for next turn.
Yep.
So he's going to be punished a little bit for this though, but that's going to be 4. Okay.
Yeah, he's got Lightning the Bolt us down, which is fine, but at the same time, KXN could have a really powerful turn of a lot of damage if he just picks up Doomguard. Now, what do you Soulfire here? I personally think you want to start pushing for as much damage as possible. You're not going to efficiently remove this Harvest Golem. It's going to either absorb 8 damage, or you're going to do 8 damage to face.
Yeah, and since you're getting to the point where you're just having to life tap every turn to look for answers, you're getting to that point in Zoo where you sort of need to start making moves towards finishing the game.
He life taps. Okay. I
Yeah.
mean, that could have been disastrous if it
he
was
drew a
the
Doomguard, yeah.
right? So, again, KXN is more greedy with his light taps, and it's paid off so far, but it could easily backfire if he's not careful.
He's been very conservative with his Soulfires too, which is not something that we usually see from Zoo players. And yeah, if he had drawn Doomguard in that situation, which he still has 2 Doomguards left in his deck, we haven't seen one. So that could have really punished him in this situation.
So, Soulfire now, because you know he has an opportunity to like an ideal target. You Soulfire the Flame Tongue Totem, right? Or, I mean, you have an opportunity to even push through some of these taunts here, but you have to do it before you tap. Otherwise, if you pick up that Doomguard, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. And Flame Tongue Totem going to be the target here. Yeah, and now he's in pretty good position, making the best out of that Soulfire. And I mean, this is still not too bad of a spot for the Shaman player. He's got those Feral Spirits on the board, which could absorb a lot of damage if the Warlock does keep drawing into things like Boardwalker. And he also has...
Oh, man.
Yikes.
That juggle was actually such a big deal.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, because now he can't use that damage to easily push through. And Alakir is slightly too expensive.
Yep. This is an awkward turn here.
Do we Hex something here? Yeah, I think there's a serious consideration for it.
Yeah.
Because even if he has Doomguard off the top, Alakir should be able to deal with it, right? So, using that logic, it actually is okay to Hex. Just because you need to control the board. Knife Jugger's too much of a threat to just dissect whatever you have.
Yeah. And also, the Doomguard's still going to have a pretty good effect on the board regardless of when he gets it. So
right.
I'm sure if he had drawn into something different than the Alakir, if he had drawn into some maybe like a smaller minion that he had, maybe like the second Harvest Golem, he probably would have been a little bit more conservative with the Hex, and I probably would have agreed with that play if he had done it. But seeing the Alakir, he's got an answer to pretty much anything that KXN can throw at him this turn.
That's a pretty good draw here.
Dark Iron Dwarf, that's a really big draw.
Like, short of Doomguard, that's probably the best draw he could have asked for, considering he's out of Soulfires. Gets the buff, gets the 4/4 body, which challenges everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like keeping the Hex here just so you can have your Undertaker be protected a little bit better. But we know that Alakir, with a Rock Biter, can definitely destroy the rest of this board here. It just leaves up that 1/1, and you're, like, sitting pretty.
Yeah, definitely. And the health total is still pretty high here for KXN, so there's really no threat to him. He can keep life tapping every turn, but he is on that point where he's just relying on getting that innate draw and getting that life tap to find answers every turn. And it's such an inconsistent way to sort of rely on. I mean, it's better than a lot of other classes when you're in that position because you get that guaranteed draw, but...
Well, this is a greedier move for SilentStorm to potentially use Rockbiter to seal the game. Of course, well, if there's a simple way to buff the Dark Iron Dwarf with an abusive Sarge or something, Alakir is going to go down. That's always a scary moment, but fortunately for KXN, he doesn't have it. And he does draw a nice curve.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I think in the back of his mind, he's worried about what Alakir can do.
Yeah, because he's only used one Flame Tongue totem this game so far, and he hasn't seen any Rock Biters as well. So that's really scary, especially when you're starting to get down to dangerous levels of health. Putting that Loath about, oh, that's a great draw at this point. Getting that card draw and putting that body on the board is really big. And there's the Flame Tongue.
Oh, you know, positioning with the Flame Tongue, did that matter a lot here?
I think that you put the Azure Drake to the left of the
Alakir?
To the left of the Alakir. That way you can still benefit the Alakir,
Yeah.
but at the same time you can trade in your totems.
Absolutely. I think he might have rushed this a little bit too soon.
I think he might be feeling it now. He's not going to get any benefit from this Alakir. That's a lot of missed damage that he's going to be dealing with here, and that could have been 5 damage to face instead of that 3 damage to face. Oh, and there's the Doomguard, the first one.
Right, but that's where the taunt totem's actually rather clutch here, because the second taunt is rather problematic for him to push through efficiently. That said, Doomguard, better late than never. And he's going to have to tap as well. As soon as he takes this out. Or does he even tap?
I don't know. That's what he's thinking about right now. He's thinking how much damage is going to be put on me next turn. He knows he hasn't seen any Rock Biters. And so if he taps, it's going to put him at 13. So 1 Rock Biter Alakir would be
well, he's going to kill
12
Alakir
damage.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's not exactly what he was looking for if he was worried about life total.
Yeah, those late game when you draw the Undertakers and the Flame Imps when you're low health, and Boardwalker can be a little bit beneficial because it can absorb a lot of damage, especially in later turns, but Flame Imp is, I'm not sure if he's even going to end up, he's thinking about it.
4 damage is still hard for your opponent to generate off Shaman. He needs Doomhammer.
That's not it. Or Shock Face.
If you only could, then he'd actually have lethal. All right, so how do you do this? Do you have to trade the Azure Drake? And you can use Earthshock, obviously, to kill off one of these minions. Harvest Golem. Yeah, I guess you can just play it off chance. You can just pick up the value.
Yeah. Well, if he draws into the second Doomguard here, he can win. That's lethal.
Right. That's still a big if. And he's going for a life tap, and it is a second Doomguard.
Yep, that's it.
Yep. Zoo to zoo things.
Yep. Wow. Okay, so I thought SilentStorm actually played that game pretty well. The only real misplay that I think he might have made was the positioning on the Azure Drake, but I don't think that really affected much. It put a little bit less damage onto the Doomguard at the beginning when he first spawned it, but other than that, I mean, just pretty timely draws at the end there for KXN. And, I mean, he's going to take game 1.
Well, you know, I think SilentStorm made a lot of plays to position himself to win. It's like if he doesn't have this one card.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it ended up biting him back.
Yeah.
I mean, in the very end, it was a decision that didn't pay off. So it's hard because it's like, well, he needed precisely those 2 cards. He needed Abusive Sergeant and his second Doomguard. And it was the runner that's actually really painful because it's like, you know, in that scenario, it's not going to be as common as you think it is. But in this very moment, SilentStorm is regretting not being able to kill off that Doomguard.
Yeah, and if you think back to that one turn where he actually placed that Azure Drake, he missed 2 damage on the face from the Alakir by not putting the Alakir next to the Flame Tongue because of the Azure Drake's positioning.
Sure, or even 4 if you decide to go for.
Yeah,
and
then he was 1 off lethal 2 turns later with that Rock Biter in hand. So if he had made that choice, then he would have taken that game. But unfortunately, I think all he needed was 1 more turn to really stabilize. But the Doomguard draw came out at the perfect time for KXN. And the next matchup that we are going to see is going to be Priest versus Mage. So I'm really curious to see what kind of Mage SilentStorm's actually brought today.
Yeah, you know, I think the Secrets Mage is really powerful. I really like Shrifecrow's deck. The one that has duplicates and a lot of mid-range threats, but it's got a lot of anti-aggro control elements to it. It's a very weird, mysterious deck, honestly. I played it a little bit on ladder, and it's some of the most fun I've had playing Hearthstone in a while.
Did you have a lot of success with it, or?
I had some medium success. You know, I got a pretty decent win streak going. The season just started, so
Yeah.
you know I got to like rank 8 or something, rank 9
Yeah.
pretty easily, and then GVG came out. I was like, well, I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna go straight into
Yeah.
the GVG arena, and then as soon as I do that, I'll probably use it to climb the legend.
Yeah, and some cards I was a little bit confused by, but after watching him play with that deck for a while, it made a lot of sense. Like the Ice Barrier, I thought that was a really interesting card because a lot of people will say that, well, that's great in Freeze Mage because it can allow you to stall a few turns. But I was surprised to see it in such like a value heavy deck, just because it doesn't really have an effect on the board, or it just keeps you alive for a little bit longer.
I mean, a lot longer too. It's 16 health over the course of the game if you can get 2 ice barriers off.
Yeah.
So it's very significant. Extend your life by over 50%. So I like where the deck does. It's a really hard deck to play though.
Yeah.
The more I like explored it, I was like, wow, these are a lot of uncomfortable, unusual situations.
Yeah.
Now Priest is one of the best classes at dealing with duplicate.
Yeah.
You can steal your opponent's cards. And as a result, give a big problem to your opponent because they'll never get the duplicates off. If you mind control something or Sylvanas steal something,
Yeah.
won't even really matter.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to be really cautious about how you go into it if it's the Secrets Mage. Or, you know what, it could be Giants Mage as well, which is a deck that we've also seen on and off in the metagame. And it's a Giants Freeze Mage, right? So you use a lot of Freeze to stall the board, and you use Giants to kill them in the late game. This is another cool, unusual deck that Mage can bring out. And the threat of Mage is that there's so many different ways you can see it being built.
Yeah, and one of the most popular Giants decks that I've watched quite a bit is Duckwing Face used to stream that deck quite often, really early in the morning, but I used to watch him play that quite a bit, and it's really interesting and cool to see some of the decisions that you are forced to make later in the game. But pretty decent draw early on. He's got a lot of card draw, so he is going to be able to draw into those threats. But having Alexstrasza in your opening hand is never usually comforting.
No, especially when you see that your opponent is playing another Undertaker deck.
Yeah.
And it makes sense considering that this could just blow the game out of the water.
Yeah.
And most likely will, unless SilentStorm picks up some of his really powerful high-impact cards. Frost Nova Doomsayer or something equivalent to that. He already threw away a Molten Giant too. He thought that maybe this Priest would give him the time to play his cards because it's Control Priest, but
that's why he kept a lot of that card draw early on. But when you see that Undertaker drop down, you have to sort of just gather your thoughts real quick and say, wait, what class am I playing against?
Now there is a saving grace here for SilentStorm. He can gain some health back with Zombie Chow. He just drew into his Molten Giant, and he does have secrets and like Alexstrasza, so ways to fight against the pressure. The only thing is, can he pair together the combo of the time? Like, can he use all of this resources without getting overwhelmed? Not to mention that his opponent does have Lotheb to lock him out of a game.
Yeah, so this is a pretty great start for him, and he's got a lot of ways to buff up that Undertaker. And getting to the Sludge Belcher turn when you still have your Undertaker is actually a pretty big deal. So he's starting to draw into some of those good things. He's got that first Molten Giant, but he really needs to find some of that AoE board clear. He really needs to find Pyroblast. He's got so many of those late game cards that he really needs. He's got one of the Ice Blocks, the Pyroblast, the Alexstrasza, but he needs the cards that are going to actually help him get there.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, that's not a bad draw at all.
Whoa.
He can draw a couple cards here, and before his turn 4 it looked like just a heal attack, but now he has an opportunity to do some real fun stuff.
Yeah, he can get a couple card draws out of this if he so chooses. But I think he's still in a pretty great spot. And you mentioned that Lotheb. I think that Lotheb's going to actually be a really big deal in this game. Do you save that Lotheb until just as late as possible, until you know that you can either go for a kill or you know that the mage is going to actually combo it out?
Yeah, you said it perfectly. Pretty much just time it accordingly so that way you know your opponent can't respond if you're trying to kill. Or, on the converse, you use it in case you're in a desperate situation where your opponent's trying to kill you. Say he has played Alexstrasza. You both have afterwards kill off Alexstrasza. You sit back.
But he's starting to pile in the damage here. 19 health. He's got SilentStorm sitting at. I mean, priests aren't necessarily notoriously known for their burst unless you get the Akanai double zombie chow.
So if
Circle.
I read this correctly, TJ, Ice Block is still eligible to be played, which means the secret they picked up was not Ice Barrier or Ice Block. It might be Duplicate.
Or Counterspell, even.
Yeah, it could be Counterspell as well. I'm leaning towards the Duplicate, though, just because it works so well with Molten Giants.
Yeah, that's very true. You kill a Molten Giant, and then since most of the time when you play a Molten Giant, you're already at the health threshold where you can just go ahead and play the Molten Giant again. So having a Molten Giant killed and then just being able to play 2 Molten Giants, I like that as well. And Counterspell isn't necessarily that useful now that I think about it in the Freeze Mage, because you don't usually have like a board that you're trying to protect. Yeah, it stops the flare. Actually, now that I think about it, now that you mentioned that, Counterspell, the ultimate counter to Hunters.
Quite possibly. All right, so he's finally starting to draw some of his freeze and his AoE, so this is good. And the Ice Block is important to keep him alive. I am really curious about what that second secret is, though. We don't know for sure, but my hunch is Duplicate.
Yeah.
Okay, so how much damage do you have here? 7. Not enough to pressure exactly at the moment. And, you know, actually, we're using spectator mode features here, but we can't even see because it's all still secrets here.
Yeah. But it's not all-knowing, the spectator mode, so.
Nope. Because we're on player POV at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So it's still, this is actually quite a bit of damage that he's going to have on board here, and he actually has that Akanai, and if he's able to get that zombie chow procced from the Akanai, he can Akanai circle and be able to get additional damage from that. So.
Ooh, that's a good draw too. He has zero idea that Molten Giants are coming out this turn.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He might be pretty surprised, and if this is Duplicate, he actually doesn't even have a Shadow or Death. So.
Right. I mean, the best way to deal with Duplicate is to.
Well, there's a Shadow or Death.
Nice.
Either way, if this is a Duplicate or a Counterspell, it's going to be pretty good. I'm with you on this one, though. I'm leaning towards that this is a Duplicate, and this makes a lot of sense if it's true. What is he going through in his head right now, though?
He's worried, but now no, he's going through his head is like, oh my god, I wasn't playing around Molten Giant, and I've already tested for Ice Barrier, so I'm pretty sure that this is Duplicate.
Yeah. This is a really tough turn when it comes down to it.
Circle of Healing to draw 4 cards seems a little luxurious. He's going to burn a couple.
He's testing for Counterspell. Wow, okay.
Wow.
That's a good play, but really risky, because if that was Duplicate, he would have he would have burned those cards.
Burned some cards.
Yeah. But
wow, okay.
The risk does play off, so his read was correct. A very risky read indeed, but it is going to pay off for him, and now he's going to be in a pretty good position, because if SilentStorm doesn't have, well, he's got a couple threats. He has actually running the Antonitis as well, so just a lot of sort of win conditions built into this single deck here.
So you got a Flame Strike here.
Yeah.
The question is, do you oh, actually, you go up to 14 health, right? You don't need to Ice Lance?
Yeah.
You can even bounce yourself back up to 15 with Alexstrasza.
Yep.
So or if you're feeling aggressive, you can go Alexstrasza on your opponent, because Priest isn't known to be a bursty class. But if they do have Holy Fire, you're in trouble. Like, this is where it gets really confusing, because Undertaker Priests don't usually run a lot of spells.
Yeah, that's true.
So you don't see Holy Fire. And yet KXN, he's the one having a Holy Fire in his deck, despite running all these Death Rattles.
Yeah, this seems to be a really just sort of mixed deck. I've actually seen quite a few Death Rattle priests, like the all-in Death Rattle priests, even cut Mind Control out of the deck. So very spell heavy. We've only seen one Holy Nova, I believe, so far. So that might be the only single one. But seeing a Holy Fire in this deck is a little bit interesting, and it's something that SilentStorm might not expect. But coming up to those Alexstrasza turns, I mean, I think at this point you have to sort of maybe go a little bit on the aggressive and play a little bit of a risky style. It's not very likely that he's going to have burst at this point, but you sort of have to make that decision of, well, am I going to run out of damage? Is this priest just going to be able to keep stabilizing the entire game if I use the Alexstrasza on myself?
KXN's taking a lot of time on this turn. He's going to be building up resilient minions in his injured Blade Master, but he does give a burst from the hand. I guess as long as he keeps Akanai with the ability to shoot, he still retains a lot of the ability to finish. But you have to be careful because if you give up too many ways to kill from the hand, eventually it gets to the point where they can be reliant on you not being able to finish them.
Yeah.
And now Alexstrasza, with this Fireball draw, he's going to go pretty aggressive, and now he needs to respond to this.
Yeah, he's got quite a bit of damage in his hand already. He actually has the Antonidas as well to draw a little bit more, and Pyroblast also. So, I mean, do you keep yourself healthy here by Holy Firing, or do you just play the Loatheb in fear that your opponent just has all the right cards?
Let's see. If you play Loatheb, is there any way for you to secure yourself? No. If you can't, that means you have to Holy Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the good thing is that he can kill off this Alexstrasza, heal up, play Undertaker, still be at a reasonable amount of health.
Yeah.
Yeah,
20 health, and I mean, he can keep sustaining every turn, and he's still got that Loatheb in his hand to be able to block out that next kill turn. So he's in a pretty good spot, but at the same time, well, yeah, I mean, he's still going to be able to muster up quite a few damage even without the Holy Fire.
So the problem is he's not able to pop the Ice Block this turn. That's a big draw. So if he goes for a Pyroblast this turn, which I'm almost certain he will, then he counts up his damage, and he's got 18, I believe. No, he's got 16 damage. He needs the other Ice Lance. But Pyroblast needs to come out now because it's 10 mana. You're not going to be able to get it out usually any other scenario.
Yeah.
He is worried about his Ice Block getting popped, though. But your opponent also has the possibility of Loatheb.
Yeah, this is a tough turn. And he knows that he doesn't have that second Ice Block in his hand already. So if he uses the Pyroblast and a Loatheb does come out next turn, it's going to put him in a really rough situation. He'll need to draw into that second Ice Block, or else he'll be dead the next turn. So
if you go for Antonidas and a bunch of ways to stay alive, Loatheb still presents the same exact problem, except you haven't gotten your damage in.
Yeah.
Because then he Loathebs, pops your block.
But at least you'll have a body on the board instead.
Or even mind controls. I mean, Pyroblast just makes the most sense to me, in my mind.
Yeah. But this is a definite Loatheb turn.
With Defender of Argus, he can Loatheb and pop the block. That's actually a really important draw right now.
Yeah.
Wow, actually, that was a very, very good draw here, other than second Holy Nova if he had one.
Yeah, because other than that, the block actually wouldn't have been able to be popped that turn because he didn't have enough mana to play Loatheb and the Akanai Soul Priest and do the heal to face. So, yeah, this is going to be big.
Basically, Ice Block or bust here for SilentStorm. Even if you get Frost Nova, he can shoot you through with Akanai Soul Priest, which is why we're saying you need to have damage from the hand.
Yeah, he does have the Blood Mage Thalnos, and he does have the Acolyte of Pain to be able to he can kill one or the other.
Mana. Right? The Ice Block will still cost 8 mana even if he had it, so SilentStorm is actually dead.
Yeah. He doesn't know that. He doesn't I mean, you have to at least suspect it at this point. He hasn't played an Akanai Soul Priest. You know that he's going to be running in that deck, but he's going to see if there's any other options. But yeah, you're right. The Ice Block would cost too much mana. Can't even ping his own Blood Mage Thalnos. I mean, could he draw into anything? No, I don't think so. I mean, he might think that no, even Frost Nova would be too much.
Yeah, Frost Nova also costs 8 mana.
Yeah, and he wouldn't be able to play the Doomsayer either. He's going to see just in case, but...
Oh, that's such a tease. Do you know if he had that second Ice Lance the previous turn, he would have had a 21 damage combo with Thalnos.
Yeah.
So, oh, wow, what a close game. But again, Loatheb showing why he's invaluable. And why Freeze Mage is oftentimes not played because even if you're not going up against 100, Loatheb can be a big problem.
Yeah, and Priest just has way to sort of keep themselves in it, even post Alexstrasza with that Holy Fire and, of course, just being able to heal themselves up every turn. So if they can delay even 1 or 2 turns, they can usually get out of that range that the Freeze Mage can bring them in. So this is the first time that I've seen Freeze Mage in this tournament, at least from the games that I've watched.
Yeah,
so,
same here.
And actually, it might even be the first time that I've seen Mage in general.
Well, Mage is not a deck for everybody. It's a little bit tricky at the moment, but I do know that a lot of players love playing Mage because they think it's a fun class.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm expecting SilentStorm to potentially bring it back if he gets another opportunity to. I think he actually will in the losers bracket, no matter what. Yeah. But that's assuming he goes down here. He's losing 0-2, and he needs to win this next match, or else the first match is already over. Hunter versus Warrior is a lot closer than you might think.
Yeah.
And I'm giving the edge to Hunters nowadays.
Okay.
Actually, I know you said you were giving the edge to Warriors a little bit.
Yeah, just a very small amount, though. I think my win rate across about 100 games against Hunter last season was a little bit above 55%, so about 56%. But that's still really close, and that's me having a lot of experience playing against the class, and
Sure.
maybe some Hunter players on ladder being new to the class and maybe just getting frustrated with all their other decks. I'm sure everybody's been to that point where they say, you know what, I'm on a losing streak with my main deck, let's play some Hunter. So it could be skewed a little bit, but I would actually say this matchup is very close to 50-50.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with the 50-50. Like, it depends on some of the small things being built. Is Warrior playing a lot of early game minions to stop the aggression?
Yeah.
Are Hunters cutting a lot of their ways to deal with big minions and pressuring, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe one Hunter's mark could be super valuable, but is he playing a lot of flares because he's expecting his opponent to play Hunter?
Yeah.
These are interesting concepts that definitely could get in the way, depends on your deck building.
Yeah.
So going into this game, it's all about the Hunter start, but if the Warrior can get that Fiery War Axe to get the ball rolling, then I feel like Warrior can stabilize here.
Yeah, if you're the Hunter player, it always just seems like Warrior has Fire War Axe in their starting hand in every single game. All right, well, Cruel Taskmaster is a really great card to deal with, like Leper Gnomes and
yeah, I
and
still
Web
say you
Spinners.
throw it back, though.
Really? Throw back the Cruel Taskmaster?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you need Fiery War, especially because you don't have the coin here. You definitely need Fiery War Axe, because the coin can accelerate you closer to Death Bite in case you have a secondary weapon. But weapons are the way you stabilize, from my experience.
Yeah, if I'm on turn 1 and I don't have a weapon, sometimes I'll throw back a Cruel Taskmaster. A lot of times I'll look to see what the Hunter mulligans away. If he keeps most of his hand, it usually means his curve is pretty good.
That's interesting.
And I'll usually keep the Cruel Taskmaster because it's sort of as an emergency. If just in case I don't draw into a weapon, I need something to be able to deal with it. But if he throws away a lot, sometimes I'll be a little bit greedier and maybe throw everything away to try and look for those weapons. But I mean, he ends up with double Cruel Taskmaster. Doesn't throw the first one away and ends up with the second one in his hand as well, but no weapon.
The second weapon here is actually a really bad draw.
Yeah. Really clogs up his hand, and it's so hard to play that second weapon, especially since drawing that Mad Scientist. I mean, I guess it'll allow him to be a little bit more liberal with his bow charges because he knows that he has a second one. But then again, 3 mana, he's got the Animal Companion as well, so that clogs up a lot of his mana once he gets to those turns that are pretty crucial against Warrior.
Sure. Well, you know, in this scenario, when they have the weakest turn 1 start, short of just not drawing it, and that's a little unfortunate that he gets Undertaker now.
Yeah.
This is another scenario where Cruel Taskmaster is actually pretty strong.
Yeah, but if he had Undertaker Web Spinner, then it would have been pretty rough because he would have traded against the Web Spinner, but the Undertaker would have traded really favorably against the Cruel Taskmaster.
And this is where a position where a second Cruel Taskmaster actually isn't even that bad either, which is interestingly enough.
Yeah. So he can he's just going to clear here.
Yeah. And, you know, he has early game responses. Executing a 1-mana minion isn't the best feeling, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. Now, with the trap being up, though, that does give room for the bow to be able to pick it up, although we can take a look to see what secret it is.
Freezing.
The power of technology. It's freezing trap. Oh, I can also see how many cards are left in the deck.
That's actually pretty great.
Finally. Can I click his end turn button? No, I can't do that. All right.
Yeah, I think that'd be a little bit too overpowered for the spectators. There is a kick spectator kick spectator option though. If someone's spectating your game and you're saying, "Hey man, I'm getting owned by this guy. I don't want you spectating anymore," you can just say, you can just kick him out. So
right. It's embarrassing. It's like, well, he's top decking a lot. You know, getting the Animal Companion also is a way for you to get consistent damage in.
Yeah.
So if that was Huffer and, you know, he couldn't respond to it, then he would have gotten 8 damage. It's okay. You know, the reality is you don't need many bow charges. You already have 2 Eagle Horn bows, so you're not going to be hurting. That's 12 damage. I think going for the Animal Companion playing the previous turn was definitely the right play here.
Yeah. Oh, this is a really awkward turn, though. There's just about nothing he can do except just armor up. And when you're making turns like this as a Warrior player, armoring up and passing on turn 4 just really gives the Hunter such a huge – or turn 5, really gives the Hunter just a huge amount of momentum in the game, and that's never something that you want to just hand over.
Well, yeah, you basically just gave up 3 mana to your opponent.
Exactly.
And an Iron for a Grizzly that was given off of the Web Spinner, and that's actually a pretty decent card at the moment as well.
Can you still get the GVG cards off the Web Spinner? Is that still a possibility?
I don't know. It's a really good question.
I think there was a lot of posts on Reddit yesterday saying that you could people were getting like Gazrilla and like the Tall Strider. They were getting a lot of the GVG cards from Web Spinners.
They get Malorn.
Even in
like,
constructed.
what?
Yeah, there was a post that said some guy actually got Malorn, his very first Web Spinner, in constructed.
That's really interesting.
So I'm not sure if Blizzard intended for that to happen or if that's something that we'll see today.
Oh, man. That hurts a lot.
Yeah, this trades so perfectly with the bow. Wow. Best juggles.
SilentStorm is in a lot of trouble. And I think we wrap up this turn with a hero power. Yep.
Just the cherry on top, the extra 2 damage. Oh, man. This is a very awkward hand here. His hand is very clogged with a lot of big creatures here.
I have no time
Yeah.
for games.
Sylvanas is a move to try to seize back the board, but you know, it's there's a lot of ways to make sure, just put on damage and make sure that she has minimal to no impact whatsoever.
This is just going to hurt here. He's going to be able to pile on so much damage.
Wow. Is that actually going to be like putting him at like 2 or 3 health?
2
Like
health. I believe it'll be 2 health.
This is so much damage. That Undertaker is a 5/5. That's unreal.
Wait, if he okay, never mind. He still would have been off because he used the Haunted Creeper to buff the Undertaker, but he was very close to having lethal there.
So he needs shield block into Brawl, right? No, that won't even save him.
I don't think there's anything that he can do here to save him.
Well, okay, so
If he unless he had double Armor Smith, double Whirlwind.
no, I was thinking
No.
there's a scenario where he was able to, like, if he killed off the Spectral Spiders, brawled, and then only the Haunted Creeper survived, so he stole it.
Yeah.
A few other things. He stole the Knife Juggler. That's a cute move to go for the Shield Slam. But that still should be enough to push through right here. You can use your weapon, push through the Sludge Belcher, and just have the Leok get the final hit here. So that's going to mean KXN 3 0s, but it was with Zoo, Hunter, and Death Rattle Priest, which means he won all 3 games with Undertaker.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And those were the decks that I think have been the most popular over the course of the Legendary Series that most players are bringing in the Warlock and the Hunter. SilentStorm, though, I mean, you got to respect him for trying to shake it up and bring some new things into this one. And
lots of respect.
He's still got chances. This is a double elimination bracket. So even though he got 3-0'd in this series, he's going to have a second chance. He will go on to face the loser of our next matchup. So he's got more chances come in today, but I'm sure maybe he's scratching his head thinking, maybe I should have chosen some different decks.
Maybe. Just it could have been just bad beats. It seemed like KXN did get the big end of the straw a few times.
Yeah.
Especially on those Knife Jugglers.
Yep.
And his curve was pretty decent despite not having, like, he had a few hiccups here and there.
Yeah, SilentStorm didn't even see a weapon the entire Warrior game. So not a Deathbite or a Fiery War Axe, which really can hurt you.
Hurts a lot. And so now he drops to the lower bracket. But KXN's not in yet. He has to win one more match before he's guaranteed a spot for tomorrow. And because if you go to the winners portion of the entire bracket, you're still guaranteed only top 3. So you need to win 2 series essentially to get out here.
Yeah, but they if they do manage to get to that top 2, they will be participating tomorrow, joining all our invited players as well as the top 2 players from last week. So D2 and Max we saw last week get on top 2. So a lot of exciting matches still to come today, and of course tomorrow once we find out who from this open bracket will make it through. Sure.
Makes sense to me. So, thanks, guys. That wraps up our first series of the day. That was brought to you by Western Digital and Crucial. And, we'll give a shout-out to our sponsors in Newegg to thank you to bring them all to make this even possible. They're bringing together
Yeah.
the ESL Hearthstone Legendary Series, so make sure to check out all of their cool stuff at newegg.com. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna have more action here at the Open Finals of Week 3 of the Legendary Series. Stay tuned.